If someone mentions the Japanese Yakuza, does an image pop into your head of men in expensive suits, charging through the streets, and cutting off their fingers the moment something goes wrong? Or maybe someone like Kazuma Kiryu from Yakuza, taking on an entire street by himself? That's the script in movies and games. In modern Japan, the real Yakuza are living far more miserably than you might imagine. Because of what are known as the Yakuza's natural enemy, the Yakuza exclusion ordinances. These former underground emperors are now shut out from even getting a phone plan, renting an apartment, or opening a bank account. With their room to survive squeezed to the limit, the Yakuza have been forced into a brutal kind of transformation. Today, I'm going to walk you through some of the most absurd, almost pitiful, and darkly funny moments from the Yakuza's so-called hardcore transition. By the end, you'll realize that even in the underworld, if you don't keep learning, you'll be left behind. You think joining the Yakuza only requires being ruthless and able to fight? Wrong. Today's Yakuza, getting initiated, might mean you have to turn in an answer sheet first. In 2009, a piece of news shocked Japan. Within the Yamaguchi-gumi, Japan's largest Yakuza, police raided one of its affiliate groups and unexpectedly found a 12-page exam paper. This wasn't some killer's handbook. It was a real, closed-book, legal knowledge exam. Why would the Yakuza hold an exam? The reason is painfully practical. Under Japanese law, if a low-ranking member extorts someone or gets into a fight, the victim can sue the boss behind him directly and demand an astronomical civil settlement. And that's where it gets awkward. Top leaders realized that the tribute they'd worked so hard to collect still wasn't enough to cover the mess their underlings were making. I've compiled the exam questions mentioned in the reports, so let's test you. Could you pass the Yakuza's exam? Honestly, I can't answer a single one. To unify internal ideology and to find some spiritual comfort during a time of growing social isolation, the Yamaguchi-gumi actually launched its own internal newspaper, the Yamaguchi-gumi Shinpo. There were no guides on how to seize territory. Instead, the pages were filled with the boss's earnest messages and updates on organizational affairs. But the greatest contrast of all, the most popular and actively contributed section of the paper turned out to be something completely unexpected: the haiku contest. Let's take a look at some of the works written by these Yakuza veterans. After the implementation of the Yakuza exclusion ordinances, Yakuza members were banned from entering saunas. One haiku captured their quiet frustration. Another poem, appearing near the inaugural issue, carries a typical ninkyo, chivalrous Yakuza tone of self-encouragement. As the Yamaguchi-gumi faces severe aging within its ranks, many longtime members now spend their later years behind bars. This kind of self-mockery is common in the paper. Even the Yamaguchi-gumi leader, Shinobu Tsukasa, contributed his own haiku. These are the same hands that once gripped blades in violent street clashes. Now, they carefully weigh syllables and seasonal rhythm. As Japanese society continues to push the Yakuza further to the margins, many old guard members, isolated and alone, can only turn to literature as a way to cope. This may be the most contradictory thing about the Yakuza in the eyes of ordinary Japanese people. When major natural disasters strike Japan, the Yakuza's response is often even more proactive than the government's. The most famous examples are the 1995 Great Hanshin earthquake in Kobe and the 2011 Great East Japan earthquake. Back then, Kobe was the Yamaguchi-gumi's home base. After the earthquake, local government relief supplies were slow to reach victims because of complicated procedures. And then, the Yamaguchi-gumi bosses gave a direct order: open the warehouses and move out all the food and water. They drove large trucks and even used private helicopters to hand out steaming hot ramen, bread, and diapers to survivors in the rubble. During the 2011 earthquake, the Yamaguchi-gumi's mobilization ability shocked the media at the time, because the Yakuza had long operated logistics, construction, and underground transportation networks. When government vehicles were stuck halfway due to road closures, the Yakuza's modified trucks were already weaving through rural back roads. Compared with the government's step-by-step registration process, the Yakuza's relief work was all about fast, precise, and ruthless. They didn't just deliver instant noodles, they also brought generators and flashlights, and even paid out of pocket to build simple public bath facilities in blackout zones. Many Yakuza members took off their signature suits, changed into ordinary sportswear, covered their tattoos, and quietly carried debris in disaster areas. However, as Japanese laws have tightened further, this kind of Yakuza charity is becoming a thing of the past. Under today's anti-Yakuza exclusion ordinances, if ordinary citizens accept disaster relief supplies from the Yakuza, they may also be treated as benefit-linked parties and face social credit-style sanctions. In smaller disasters in recent years, even if the Yamaguchi-gumi wants to send supplies, they can only do it through anonymous packages mailed to evacuation shelters. Because once it's discovered the supplies came from the Yakuza, those precious diapers and canned food will be treated as contraband and thrown straight into the trash by local authorities. If disaster relief is overflowing with a sense of justice, then handing out Halloween candy is pure dark humor. Outside the Yamaguchi-gumi's Kobe headquarters, there used to be a tradition that lasted for more than a decade. Every Halloween, they would give candy to the neighborhood kids. Archival photos capture the surreal contrast. Elderly men with gentle, almost grandfatherly smiles, known within the underworld as Yakuza bosses, hand out carefully wrapped sweets to neighborhood children. Some even appear in lighthearted cosplay outfits. Meanwhile, across the street, riot police issue urgent warnings through loudspeakers. Attention parents, this is a Yakuza trap. Do not let your children take their candy. A scene where candy is being handed out while the police publicly sabotage it at the same time. This might be the most awkward public humiliation moment in all of Japan. The Yakuza think they're giving back to the community. The police think they're poisoning Japan's future. By 2020, the Kobe city government simply revised the law, banning Yakuza groups from giving gifts to minors. The Yamaguchi-gumi could only put up a notice at the gate. For various reasons, this year's candy giveaway is canceled. We sincerely apologize. This may be the most humble, closed-for-business notice in organized crime history. The Yakuza need to make a living too. As collecting protection money becomes harder and harder, Yakuza bosses have started studying market trends. In 2019, Japan was swept up in a crazy bubble tea boom. One anonymous boss said bluntly in an interview, "Opening a bubble tea shop doesn't require a license, doesn't require any technical skill, the profit is extremely high, and there's no risk. Isn't this better than fighting and killing?" So, on the streets of Tokyo, in those bubble tea shops with long lines, the person behind the scenes might be the boss of some Yakuza group. These bosses discovered that as long as you cook the tapioca balls chewy enough, you can make more money than extortion. When every offline way of making money is cut off by the law, the smartest group within Japan's Yakuza set their sights on the digital traffic game. A representative figure is Takesasu, who once belonged to the Sumiyoshi Kai. On video platforms, he carved out a hidden cyber territory of his own. He would take you into shadowy places that ordinary people would never encounter in their lifetime. For example, prison survival records. What do you actually eat inside a cell? How do you deal with those life or death interpersonal relationships? And even the small tricks that keep testing the edge of contraband. Then there are those chilling Yakuza rules. He would coldly break down the real physical pain of finger cutting and compare the subtle differences in etiquette between different groups. But what truly brought him massive traffic was his venom-tongued commentary and underworld fact-checking. From a god's eye view as an insider, he directly named and judged the methods and decisions of major bosses, turning mysterious internal power struggles into a Yakuza world version of dark workplace survival tactics. His most ruthless move was publicly blasting the fake creators who act tough online and farm views by pretending to be Yakuza. This kind of real underworld figure tearing down pretenders satisfied the audience's every urge to peek into the real underworld. However, a traffic business that walks on the blade's edge is destined to be a short-lived carnival. Because the content was extremely sensitive, his channel was repeatedly hammered by YouTube's algorithm. Today, it's already difficult to find any trace of him on public platforms. These big shots who once commanded the streets in the real world, in the end, could only beg for a like and beg for a follow in front of the camera. This is both a tragic song of the Yakuza's decline in Japan and their one and only attempt, inside an era of total isolation, to make peace with the world, only to be rejected in an awkward final curtain call. After hearing all of this, do you feel like these Yakuza are kind of lovable? Don't be fooled by appearances. Behind all this absurdity is helplessness born from a living space that's been squeezed to the absolute limit. When collecting protection money turns into selling bubble tea, and cutting off fingers turns into taking legal exams, this isn't just dark humor, it's the complete end of a violent era. In a society ruled by law, even if you're a godfather, if you don't study the law, you might not even be able to sell a single cup of bubble tea. So, what do you think when the Yakuza deliver disaster relief and hand out candy? Is it a sincere attempt to go straight, or are they trying to win sympathy? Leave your thoughts in the comments, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode.